Hello guys, my name is Justus Gisemba, a software developer, experienced, and span of more than 10 years in the coding world. I want to welcome you to my YouTube channel. Here we are going to learn programming in a very simplified manner and a very practical hands-on experience way. I'm going to introduce you to Java. I'm going to make you understand Java and be so good in Java that you can be able to code without any challenge. So guys, our first tutorial is going to be just an introduction part of Java. So Java being a programming language, that is a high level programming language, and it's very simple to code in Java. I'll not dwell so much on the theoretical part of Java. I won't be saying out of theory things, which I know you can access online on tutorials. I'm only going to dig deep into what you need to understand when it comes to Java and how can you come up with systems in Java. Remember, in programming is just a science. Sometimes I call it an art. Is something you enjoy doing to come up with programs or systems or software applications that can help in the real world problem solving. You can come up with a point of sale system, you can come up with an institution ERP, you can come up with any software that you want, you can come up with a game. So we shall dive into all that. So basically, I'm going to just tell you a few introductory parts that you need to understand before you just maybe get into the coding world in Java. Java is an object-oriented programming language, which most people call OOP. It's because basically the basic unit of Java is an object. And what you shall realize is that sometimes you can instantiate an object or you call an object so that can help you do a given task. So when these objects come together or related objects, they form a class. And then you realize that when these classes come together, they form a project. And now from this project, once you compile a project, you come up with a software when you make the executable files. Don't worry about the jargons. We're going to know how all that happens. Now, let's define a few things, or maybe let's know a few things. We have what we call a variable. That's a storage location in the memory of a computer. Whenever you want to store something, you state in a variable. So we have what we call variable declaration. So variable declaration is when you name a variable and you also give what we call a data type. A data type that it defines the sort or kind of data to be stored in a given variable. And then we have different types. We have different data types. For instance, we have string, which is used to store a group of characters or text. We have something like character written as char or cha or ka, depending on how you're going to pronounce it. This one is used to store a single character. And remember, when you are using a string, it has to be enclosed in double quotes. If you are using a character, it has to be enclosed in single quotes. We have something like integer written as int. This one is used to store whole numbers. Then we have also double, which is used to store floating numbers or decimals. So those are just basic data types, or we call them the primary data types that you need to understand. And of course, there are many more data types, but those are the basic data types that I realize that are so important when you are coding in Java. So if you were to do a variable declaration, you start with a data type, and then you give the variable name, then you terminate using a semicolon. Remember, in Java, every statement, okay, a statement is a line of code. Every line of code has to be terminated by a semicolon. That's what we call by terminating. So it's a data type variable name. Now, before we do an example of variable declaration, I want to say something about variable names. When you are assigning a variable name to a given variable, then make sure that if the name has more than one word, maybe two words, ensure that you don't separate the words with a space. So if the variable name has two words, for instance, let's say first name, employ what we call the camel case, so that now the first letter of the second name starts with a capital letter. Or maybe you can even use an underscore. You say first name like that, but don't say first space name. Okay, it's very important to know that. So let's declare a variable name. I mean, let's declare a variable. Maybe we can say string name. You terminate. The data type is a string. The variable name is a name. You can have integer or int age. You terminate. That is how you declare a variable. Now we have what we call variable initialization. Variable initialization, this is when you assign a value to a given variable after declaring it. For instance, as we said, string name, you see you have declared. Now to initialize, we say name is equals to, then you assign a value. Maybe we say justice. You terminate. That way, you have initialized that variable. The same way you can say int age, then now you say age is equals to 35. That way, you have initialized that variable. Another very important aspect, sometimes you can declare and initialize a variable at the same time. For instance, I can say string name is equals to justice. You see, that way I have declared and initialized on the same line int age is equals to 35. I have declared and initialized on the same line. So it can always work. Now, we have what we call a function. A function in Java is a block, is actually a block of statements, a block of statements. So if you have statements put together, they form a function. And remember, a function has to, like, for instance, you have to say, uh, it has what we call the modifier. A modifier is that a function can either be public or private. What does that mean? If it is public, its contents can be accessed by other functions. If it's private, its contents cannot be accessed by other functions. So if I were to give an example, I can say public void, then maybe I'll say initialize or init, like that. Then maybe now here we shall have statements, and of course you close the function. So at this point we are saying that the function is public, so it means it's allowing its contents to be viewed by other functions, and it is void. Void means that it does not return a value. We shall come to understand that. Then init is just a name that I've given my function, and then these brackets to show that that's a function. And remember, function has to be opened by a curly bracket and then close it down here by another curly bracket. Once you open a bracket, you have to close it. And then, of course, these are statements. You're seeing I've done some two backslashes before the word statements to show that that's a comment. Anything that is a comment in Java or anything that is a comment in programming, it means that that's not part of the code. It's not going to execute. It's just there to guide you as the programmer. Before we end this tutorial, guys, I want to make it as short as possible. I want us to learn about what's the basic structure of a Java class. The basic structure of a Java class, we start with the class, or we say the class modifier. I like using public for the classes. So I can say public class start, or maybe let me call it program one. You open up a curly bracket. Then we shall have the main function, public static void main string arguments. You have to do that to open. And then, of course, we shall have now statements. Of course, you close the main function, then you close the class. So this public static void main string arguments, this is the main function. And all Java programs start executing from the main function. That's very important, that when a Java program is executing, it will start from the main function. We'll come to understand how the main function works going forward, and maybe as we proceed. You see, programming is something so easy. It looks difficult for the start, but as you progress, you shall come to realize that it is very easy to work with. So having known that the Java program starts executing from the main function, then that is very, very much in order. Now, guys, I want to say something very little before we go to the real world of programming. In Java, we have a compiler. This is the program that's going to translate our source code to an object code for it to run in the computer. Our Java compiler that we are going to use is the JDK, the Java Development Kit. Java Development Kit, which we call JDK. You can download it. Just say JDK download. And then you can download it and install it in your computer. You can download the latest version. And also, we have what we call an integrated development environment, IDE. An IDE is a program that makes your coding easy. It has shortcuts. It has pre-programmed functions that you can use. It has the graphical user interface, a drag and drop feature that you can use. So an IDE makes your programming easy. The IDE we are going to use in in Java, sorry, is what I call NetBeans. And I like the Apache NetBeans, which I have installed in my computer. So you can also download NetBeans and install in your computer because we are going to use it going forward. Thank you guys for listening. We'll see you in the next tutorial when we shall now dig into and get into the practical part of programming.